it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no additions or deletions.
The only thing is that I'm not sure if we had decided if you want to leave the Briarly where it's at.
We can move them to right after, before, after bills and claims if you want to. If that's okay with them. Shouldn't take very long to get to that point, I don't think. So
Okay.
we're just going to move them. So no additions or deletions. Is there a motion for the approval of minutes for January 25th, 2021?
I move we approve the minutes for January 25th, 2021.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed by nay. Motion carries. Mike, are you there? Yeah. We're going to put you on mute for a little bit. It'll be a little bit before we get to that in new business, and I'll bring you back on if you'll just stay on. Okay, thanks. Reports, Councilman Moulton.
Nothing to report at this time, but I would like to talk about that email from Jim Willits about the town backing out of the.
We're going to have an executive session on part of that.
Okay, so
If you wanted to talk about it now, yeah, we backed out of it because all we asked for was a possible cost, because we have not engineered any of it. It's being engineered, and the cost of, we considered at the time the cost and was not budgeted for this year, that we would not partake in that. Since then, we've come up with another idea and have talked to Robert Short, and we're still waiting for numbers of possibly of the widening of part of the road and not do the pave it at all and go after a TAP grant, which will take several years to get done.
right, because I don't think that it's something that we should back out of.
Well, at the time, since it's not budgeted, and we did not get, we can't do it without budgeting it. I made the decision that we would back out of the deal because the county has moved forward with starting this project this year, when we were told by the Road and Bridge that they would probably not do anything with it this year, or they would start some stuff but not start the project in 2021. It would be in 21-22, and that's when we would have to budget for it.
So since we're not budgeted for it, that's why we need an executive session.
Well, we got some other stuff to talk about too, a couple things.
Well, it'll cost more though if we wait a few years, won't it?
No, if the road's widened, we would pay for that part of the road widening. It would be to finish it, pave it, and whatever. And that's what, the same way we did for the path between 3rd Street to 9th Street, which was, the TAP grant was $700 and some thousand. So consider what 6 blocks cost to 2 months.
But the path is still going to go in, correct?
Well, here's what I did, Boots. I called Robert Short, talked to him about it. He said, can we pay for engineering and construction of just widening the road, but not do the path right now? And then we'll apply for a TAP grant, which is probably going to take a year to a year and a half to get the TAP grant. And then we'll pay for the rest of the compacting.
But the infrastructure will be there to put the path.
Yes.
If you allow them to go ahead
And I
and do that.
asked for a cost for that.
But it's something we'll have to budget. I believe that Rick, if you can tell me more, Jim said something about it would probably be late in 22 before the project's even close to done, or you'll be paying for most of it at that time? If you'd like to.
Good evening. Yes, that's correct. The project has been in the makes for about 6 years. We've continued to talk with you about the project. We didn't know what an opportunity time would be to put this resurfacing and redoing Mormon Canyon Road, but we knew in our mind, because Glen Rock was involved, they wanted to do a walking path, bike path. So with Road and Bridge, we sat down with Jason and asked what roads, major roads, needed to be looked at for the upcoming season. And we're only going to do one, and Mormon Canyon came to the top of the pile as a road that needs to have something done. If you've been out there and looked at it, the guardrail dangles in the midair. There's some undercutting, so it felt imperative that we do something. Knowing that Glen Rock wanted to have a walking path and bike path, that's where we started the process, looking at engineering firms that we would like to have come in and do this project. I believe both Randy and yourself, Bruce, were in the process of the selection of the engineers that we were going to interview.
Randy was, I didn't make them.
Didn't make the first one either?
No.
Okay. So then 2 weeks ago, we interviewed 4 companies and came up with one individual company that we felt could do the job. From that point then, we asked for a detailed report as to what the cost was going to be just to do the engineering, the oversight, the testing, and all that went with it. I believe the number that was sent to you for Glen Rock's portion was $86,000. That $86,000.
Short of 87.
Yeah, just short of
Right in there,
87.
86 and change.
But who's counting? Anyway,
We are.
87,000. That's the all-in number to oversee this whole project. At that point, that's when we asked to make sure that Glen Rock was on board. This project is starting now, but the majority of the work probably will not start until July, which is the next fiscal year for budgeting. The Road and Bridge is correct. They don't have the money in their budget. They don't set the budgets for those kinds of projects on major road projects. That's set in a road fund project that the county funds, and we've been setting on about $2.5 million now for 4 years, waiting for this project to come. So it's not that the county didn't have the money. It is budgeted. It's just a matter of when do we start this project and where do we move forward. The dilemma comes in with that sandstone rock that has to be moved. If we are to build a bike path, there needs to be extra amount of sandstone removed so that we can move the whole entire road and shift it east to accommodate the safety of the slopes and the edge of the road so it doesn't fall off into the creek and stuff. That is the major portion of this road. There are several options available out there, and I believe Randy has talked to Robert. I was unaware of that conversation, but there are all kinds of possibilities. We build the road, we leave it alone until you have the funds to do it. We do nothing. We reached out to the engineering firm and basically said, as of Wednesday morning, our last conversation was with Bruce that said they're pulling out. So redo the contract, tell us what our cost is going to be without Glen Rock involved. We now have 2 contracts. We have one with and one without Glen Rock. Depending on your decision here tonight, we're going to move forward. Doesn't mean you can't come back in at a later date and addendum into that contract for Glen Rock's costs and designs that need to be placed in that as well. But there are lots of options. The county is going to move forward and get this road fixed. That's our project for the year, knowing that it's probably going to be a late summer project, and more than likely we'll not be able to get all of the paving done, so therefore it will fall into spring 22 to get this project finished. But our goal is try and have everything done by late summer, late fall. Yes, ma'am.
You said that you are going to move forward. In this moving forward process, does that include having space allowed for a bike path or a walking path there?
I believe that's the decision that you all need to make at some point in the relatively near future.
So it's up to the town to make that decision?
That's correct.
Without the town making that decision, there will be no allowance for a bike path?
No, because then that's without the bike path means we move less sandstone and less dirt to make the road work.
So if we get in, we got to put in the 87 to get in the game. 87,000.
You know, the contract was broken out in phases. I think if a guy looks at that, you could figure out what your design fee is going to be, commit to the design. When we get to that phase, then you say yes or no. I don't know. That's a conversation that I think you all need to have with the engineering firm that was selected, HDR out of Gillette.
It just makes sense if we're going to move that stone out of there and make it wider, just
We're
for
not
safety.
moving it, they are.
They are. To make it safer.
Depends on how much you want to pay for.
That's correct.
and we want the bike path for our community, we gotta find a way to.
There are
It
obstacles.
doesn't make sense not to do them both.
There are other obstacles which lead into this, and that's out at the interstate. We don't have a firm way to get south of the interstate. Either we parallel the road and narrow the road up going under the interstate, or there's an alternate route that was proposed, which I don't know if we can make happen. That's buying additional easement and paralleling the interstate down to the west, and there's an additional underpass down there that's a private underpass, which I believe is on the Deer Creek Grazing Association that they use, and would be for buying an easement through them.
That's where it comes in right there at South.
Yes, that's correct.
Right out.
The other part of this that there are some concerns about that the county's working on is through that sandstone area, there is an absentee landowner. For years, his name shows up as owner. However, that owner has never paid any taxes on that. So the county shows that we own it. The taxes show that he owns it. We've looked into this and tried to reach that individual and families for years to no avail. So there are some other things that we're working on. That is our responsibility as a county to make sure that all the easements are correct, that the survey is correct. I do believe a week ago, the engineering firm was out and started surveying and staking so that they could get an idea and a rough estimate of how much sandstone needs to be moved. Some of the obstacles out there is the power line parallels the road right there at the entrance. Those are some tight situations there that they're looking at and going to come up with some options.
You're also going to cross a very large city water main.
That's very correct. Those are all things that need to be looked at. That's why we have an engineering firm.
That's right.
Are we okay environmentally putting this project in?
They have an environmental firm that is on board that will research all of those same questions that we have.
Do you have any idea if there would be a much more significant cost to wait and pave it down the road, or wait to finish it if we just had it, paid to do whatever to have it extended and then finished it later? Do you have any idea if there would be a significant difference between just doing it when you are out there doing all the other stuff?
Yes, ma'am. One of the major savings that you have is the savings in mobbing a second time to the same project. That tends to be a pretty sizable amount, but those are questions that we have asked as well. Do we get this thing ready to go as a dirt gravel surface when the time comes and the town of Glen Rock comes in and paves it, or do we leave it as a dirt surface? Those are all questions that we have to ask in looking at this project that I think the town should explore as well. And so there are lots of options that are out there for both the town and the county to explore.
And we're also, on that paving is our ongoing infrastructure work on water and sewer mains. We will, depending on who ends up with that. Our past few jobs have been with one contractor that has done the streets and stuff, and that we would save at that time if we're still in one of the next two phases of infrastructure that we're looking at. They would already be here and be able to pave it at that time if funds are available and our taxation doesn't drop where we can't afford to do it at all.
Yeah.
Which we're
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the TAP grant deal for sure, but can they reimburse, you pay, and then they reimburse once the project is completed, or you have to?
I think you have to go through that process with the TAP grant with the Wyoming DOT and that board just from the beginning of it. I don't think you can come back and ask for it after the fact.
I mean, if you apply, and then do they reimburse, do they pay, or you send all the invoices?
Our last TAP grant, we paid all of it, and then we had to send all the paperwork in for them to reimburse. But that whole project just for the pathway here took almost from the start to when we finished up was almost 3 years.
One of the reasons the county's moving forward, if we start this today, sign the contract, the engineering firm puts all their paperwork together, we'd like to have a bid-ready project to go out to bid first part of April. By an April bid, we're getting late in the season. If we get much later than that, then we're probably going to look at postponing a full year. So that's our reasoning in moving forward so that we can get a project that maybe some other company close that has a DOT project or availability can come in and work on this project either as a primary or a secondary to another local project. Should we get much later than that, it really pushes us off into a two-season type of a project. And our goal is to not have that road interrupted more than one busy season instead of carrying it over into two. That's our reasoning for trying to move forward. After tonight, whatever your decision is, we have asked the company to come back with a separate engineering price for just the road so that we have an idea of what we're going to do. We will look at that Wednesday morning and make a decision based off of what your decision is tonight. And we'll have to be probably visiting with Robert and see what he came up with in talking with Jim and the engineering firm.
Yeah, because we have to look at more than just that, because we did not budget that. We told that to Jason and those guys that there was no way we needed some numbers to budget, and he said he didn't think they would even get it into when we had our first meeting with Jason, that they would even get it into a bid in this fiscal year. And they weren't sure about the beginning of 21, 22. So.
Well, and that's our goal, is to try and get this thing ready to go and bid it. Our funds are there, and it would be a next fiscal year project.
So that's what we have to set and have a meeting about and discuss whether or not where our funds are at and where taxes are coming into, whether we can afford it or not. So, and that's a big decision to make, and that's why when we saw what just engineering was alone and no other numbers, Randy and I felt that there was no way to move forward with that if it started in April of this year, because we had no money in the game.
This project with a road, with the bike path, could be anywhere from 2.5 to 4 million. Not knowing until we get the final numbers from the engineering firm. We started this project 6 years ago with Inberg Miller. They came and did some core sampling on that sandstone to find the hardness of it, whether it could be ripped and pulled with just equipment, or whether we were going to have some blasting. Our preference is not do the blasting, given the subsidence that's up there and what it could do. So the sandstone does lend itself. It's soft enough that we can just use some type of an impact and break it and then rip it with a big dozer. I believe at the time their quote to us was 2.3 or 2.5. But again, that was 6 years ago. So things have escalated and prices have gone up. So I believe with just putting numbers on a napkin, we're probably closer to that 4 million, 3.6, 3.8, somewhere in that neighborhood, I would believe.
And I'm pretty sure that group sitting over there does not want you to open up more mine subsidence in Sunup Ridge.
Well, where the road is, there's not a lot of mine subsidence under that.
You don't know that yet. That's what we thought too when turning on to Mormon
Well,
Canyon.
Tony's the expert. He went and explored them in his youth, so he knows where they are. But
They taxed the one that went under the highway, but the ones that went into the hill, they plugged those up, but that shouldn't be a problem.
yeah, we don't want to blast. Any other questions?
Nope, that's just what we needed to know. So we've got a lot of discussion to do before we have an answer probably by Wednesday, I believe, possibly.
Well, that's why we put it off till Wednesday, so you'd have tonight and tomorrow to kind of figure out what it is you guys are needing to do, and then we can make a decision Wednesday morning. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll get back with you.
thank you.
Councilwoman Font,
I have nothing to report.
Councilman Kincaid,
Nothing at this time.
Councilwoman Nunn.
The community block grant, continue working. Amy Clark was very pleased to have file cabinets. Thank you for donating them to her. On the day that Bob helped deliver them, she was having a training class to qualify 12 people.
Can you guys hear her?
Sure. People can't hear us on the
That was my test run. Amy Clark was very pleased to have the file cabinets. On the day that Bob helped deliver them, she was having a training class to qualify 12 people to go into the community and work in healthcare jobs. And she was planning to start a second class of 12. If you know of anyone that's interested in getting into this loop, please have them contact Amy. And at this time, while I'm giving this report, I would like to officially request an executive session at your convenience, Mr. Mayor, to discuss property issues.
Okay.
I have nothing today.
Kelly.
I have nothing at this time.
Randy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Crew's been busy with garbage collection, plowing, shoveling, and salting snow, and water meter upgrades, washing and maintaining the sewer lines. We're doing the yearly sewers right now, and starting to build a lean-to that we budgeted for in the shop yard for our attachments and equipment to keep them out of the weather. And Ray and I have decided we're going to reapply to SLIB for the June meeting for the 2nd Street Water Project. And see if we can get some money from them at that time. And last thing is that, I forgot to tell you, last meeting that the bridge lights, the trestle lights are up and working.
Yeah, they look good.
Beautiful.
I finally went down.
Light set up really well. I've seen it before daylight. It looks really good.
Yeah, it's nice, Randy.
Very nice.
That's all I have.
Be quick.
Since the last meeting, we got 9 new permits out there, we got a new house starting to be built up in, South Subdivision this year. All the numbers are nice and good now for, last year, we got 266 houses, about 1 piece of shooting down to 187. Good progress, we're good there. Other than that,
Chief.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Last council meeting, I indicated that I was looking to do one presentation on the two main proposals for our water plant systems. I asked both of the members just to follow up information on some of the aspects that we need to review. Specifically, and also board members have indicated that the pricing structures have changed a little bit over the years. So I think that information is back to me. Hoping to get to you before the next council meeting.
IT, Jarrett.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Since the past time, we had a meeting with Kevin from the Downtown Development Authority in Casper. He runs the David Street Station down there. So we had a meeting to ask him kind of, from my part specifically, just any tech questions, that, or any things that he would have wished he'd done better, or things that he felt like he was doing well. So that was very informative. And then after that, was able to have a meeting with some of the engineers for the Glenrock, the Town Square project, and spec out for them places for conduit and things like that that hadn't originally made it in there. So we were able to get some of that stuff done. Added a weather station to the top of the town hall, so that's able to be found on Weather Underground. If you want to go out there, that's KWYGLENR 14 is the name of the station, and that's given real-time weather and precipitation and wind. And then also replaced a couple PCs down at the Public Works, and that's about it for me.
Any questions for Jarrett?
KWYGLENR 14. Also, if you kind of look for personal weather stations in that area on Weather Underground, you should be able to find it.
Pretty good, I like it.
We'll see how long it stays on the roof. Any other reports? Okay, we'll move on to items from the floor. We're not going to do the Briarly presentation till after new business, so.
Good evening. I'm Les Potter. I'm the pastor of Glenrock Baptist Church. As you know, we're building out here. And our well's not good enough. It's not giving us enough water. And so we're going to drill another well. But we felt that before doing so, it would be beneficial to us, especially the short run, is since the city water line runs right past our property, if we could be granted a tap, and understanding that we'd pay the 1.5 times the rate and Also would like to do the same with trash, and if you'll give that to us at 1.5 times the rate. That would be a benefit for us. It would be, and so we just wanted to see what we need to do that.
You and I have had discussion several times. I think you've had that discussion with Randy about water taps out there, what would be required to get that water tap.
Yes, sir. I haven't discussed it with you, but
yeah, we have several times.
Really?
Yes. And at that time,
I'm sorry, you have the advantage on me, sir. Honestly, because I have not. Maybe someone else has. I don't know, but
no, you and I have discussed it. You've called me twice about it. And under Section 26-01-130, extension of water services outside the corporate limits authorized by the governing body. In Section C, it states the governing body may permit and establish so long as conditions of the contract do not violate state laws, and the said contract requires the owner of the property so served to annex said property to the town pursuant to applications provisions of the town code and state of Wyoming statutes. Okay. That means if we would do a the sizable water tap that you're needing there, you would need to annex that piece of property into the town of Glen Rock.
Well, sir, it wouldn't do any good for we're non-taxable. The town of Glen Rock would get nothing out of it. There's no benefit either way for us to do so.
But you and I discussed this before. Under our city ordinances and state statute says you were required to annex into the town if you get city water and sewer city water services. Okay.
Well, by the way, I am sorry because honestly, maybe you're confusing me with someone else. Honestly,
no, I'm not.
I've discussed it with. I know I've discussed it with others, but I don't recall you personally, sir. But anyway, besides that, it doesn't matter. I know that you do give taps to others. You have given taps to others who are not in the town, and so we're just simply asking. And it would be you would actually gain the 1.5 times the rate, as opposed to if us being non part of the town.
But under some of the new stuff that's under our new business, which is annexations of pathway and other city properties, it came to us from our engineering firm that we should start working on properties that are in and along and in and out of the edges of the town of Glen Rock that have city water and sewer, to start annexing those properties in, so we are no longer a utility company.
Okay, so I take it that's your answer.
If you want to annex in, we'll very much talk with you about a water tap. Okay, that's kind of where we're at.
There's really no benefit the town would have of us annexing with you. We're non-taxable. You'd actually gain, like I said, you'd gain the 1.5 the rate that we'd be giving, as opposed to the regular rate.
Well, we're dealing with what our engineering firm has told us that we need to do to be compliant with our ordinances and with state statute about water outside water and sewer services being permitted outside the corporate limits of the town of Glen Rock. We have several of them that were done when this was also in effect, that past administrations did not follow this, and it's been brought to our attention to straighten these out.
Okay.
So that will affect some properties that have water and sewer that are outside the city limits of the town of Glen Rock at this time.
All right.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Anything else from the floor?
Evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Bob Nunn. Question. I'd like to know what, within the last year, is there a reason why we are not plowing streets like we used to? Just a question. Have we changed the plowing policies?
No, I think we're still plowing like we've needed to on request of, and keeping the streets fairly well cleaned up.
I know we do a lot of sanding, but the streets that I'm familiar with that watch very seldom are plowed, and I just want to know if there's any changes. Have been.
No, there wasn't enough snow this time to really even plow. We just salted it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I
Oh,
guess.
I just have one thing, Randy. On the snow plowing there by the high school on Box Elder, there by the fence and the sidewalk, there's always a bunch of snow there, and I don't know if it's from the school plowing it off the sidewalk, but it's pretty tricky for those little kids. Do you think there's any way the town, it's in the town street, pick it up and get rid of it?
We usually
It
try to
got
plow it
picked up
all out
today
the center
again,
and
but
pick it up.
It's
The
been
school,
there
the
all
school,
winter.
the school, well, we just picked up, I know they picked up out there today because I saw the equipment at about 2 o'clock, but the school district plows out there and plows Mustang Trail and everything out into Box Elder Trail, which they should be plowing it the other way, because that's what causes all the drifting and makes that deeper in there.
But I just
But,
think the town could pick it up.
well, yeah,
Well, we try to plow it all at the center and then we go out and start picking it up when we get once everything's done, so.
It's pretty dicey for those little kids trying to climb over that.
yeah, unfortunately that, and where it blows through the fence, it drifts it really bad, and those guys push the street out and they do the sidewalk, so that causes a big ridge right there on the west side of the road. So it drifts worse. It's been an ongoing problem. But they do work on it, because I know they were out there today, because when I came back to town at 1:45, they were blading all that up and picking it up. I saw the equipment down there. Anything else before we move on to new business? Okay, on to new business. The first ordinance is second reading of ordinance number 723. That's a pathway annexation, but we. Mike, are you still on there? Mike, if you can hear me, would you hang up and call back so we can, because we had to mute you because we were getting feed across the line. So if you could hang up and call back, we'll discuss this annexation thing with you at that time, please. Thank you. I don't know if he's hearing me or not. I have no idea. Are you there, Mike? Oh, he just exited, so just got rid of him. Well, we can go to the other two and come back to that one. We can do the next two. We would go on to ordinance number 724, and ordinance approving the zone change and final plat of blocks 8, 9, and 10 in tract A of the Glen Rock Cemetery, comprising of 2.8 acres more or less, for second reading. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the second reading ordinance number 724.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion on that one? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Motion carries. The next one is ordinance number 725, an ordinance approving a zone change for lots 1 through 10 of the Danaher Court Edition in the town of Glen Rock, Wyoming. Is there a motion?
I move that we pass ordinance number 725 on the second reading.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Motion carries. Just for information and why Mike was on the line, back in there where that property lays, that falls under where the town is annexing a piece of the part of that property in there that belongs to the town, also lays against them, is under ordinance number 723, and there's a you guys got a piece of paperwork today, just like here, just not long ago, like we did. And the engineering firm has done the survey back there on that property and states that it is ours for a portion of it. Now, how much of it, I don't know, because the corners have not been set. And this is only second reading, which it can be, our next reading would be 2 weeks from now, which we can postpone if something comes up different that time. But I believe our engineering firm with their surveyors have done the due diligence on our part, so I guess it would be up to Mike if he disagrees with that, because what we have here is two different agreements that were before the one that's talking about the water lines and the wells pumping the water. That was the subsurface water that was pumped from the gallery wells. But I believe what changed all that was when that big water main went through there and went up Sunup Ridge for the water tower, and that subdivision was added in that water. That's when I think that came about, and I don't know the total history of it, but the engineering firm agrees that the town owns a piece of part of the property right against the back of Mesa Verde. So, and we have discussed that. Of course, it was discussed with Jared, and it should have been discussed with Ray and those guys, because Jared's a landscaping architect, not a engineer. So they are looking at that again with the surveyors, I know, at this time to prove that. So
I think I'd make a motion to postpone vote on ordinance 723.
Yeah, I'll second that.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I think that this needs to get resolved before it even comes back up to the council again.
Well, I believe our engineers have done the due diligence for the town of Glen Rock. I think it's up to Mr. Lithgow to do his due diligence and surveying of his property and set his corners. So I don't know that
he should be given that opportunity, I guess.
well, he can do that. It just, and if we are not in any intention of this annexation of annexing any other private property at this time. It's only what has been surveyed, has already been surveyed for us by the CEPI. So
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Councilman Moulton. Is there a time frame that you want that postponed until? Or is this an open postpone?
I guess the next council meeting till we get more information about it. Unless we hear something
There's
back.
3 readings, right?
mm-hmm.
So you could do this one and then postpone on third reading if you want to.
We can postpone the second reading.
Yeah.
Ken, it's,
Yeah.
so are we done with discussion?
I think so.
Okay.
I just want to give Mike,
Yeah, and I do too. It's I have no problem with that. But if we won't annex a piece of his property, and if there's, with what the money we've spent with CEPI for that investigation, I believe we stand correct with what they have found for us.
Yeah.
So, but that's where it's at. So it's up to council. But so if there's no more discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in
What are we
favor?
voting on? To postpone it?
postpone
I was going to state that. The motion is to postpone the second reading of ordinance number 723. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Mayor votes nay. We postponed it at this time. Okay. Do you guys want to do yours now before we do bills and claims? Okay.
September deadline. Continue past the 18th, but really close this time after the so like I said, we're going over generally what was done in the during the 2020 meetings, which is six several of the areas that are not like school. Completing our efforts to protect several additional areas. Discussing sinkholes definitions for all properties that fall within Highway 20 and 8.16, and additional sinkhole development in 8.16 on our first ordinance. For all of those stuff that indicated area and have additional sinkhole. Investigations concluded that all these sinkholes are unrelated and that so in general, just describe what subsidence is, how it occurs. On top of that, the lines that are in the water documents, so we define that over time I can find a period collapse. Surface. Three lines, short lines of existing runoff, composed of two separate areas. One is near downtown runoff, consists of the Albuquerque line, consists of the commercial power line facility, in 6th Street, as well as the runoff line to line that just parts of the town. Just east of each area of town is separated from these areas of development that so the Run Route 6 project started in mid-May and we wrapped it up in November. This is over 900 total, which we wrapped it up. The additional scope included areas H and M of the project. H consists of the portion of Summit Grove Highway, as well as portions of all the side roads. Area. And of course there's going to be an end, which is probably the Albuquerque line, exists between 3rd and 4th Street and Valley between Yes, and that's part of the reason why that's what we have at the end of the discharge.
Let off pressure. Let off pressure.
So, is there any value, I mean, in terms of the source of water that may have value for such purpose? Is that feasible, or is that a possibility for you guys to work on?
The water in there testing is possible. We've tried to do, we've had to do agricultural using, using water for testing. So there are several wells that are actually on the site. They are, you have to have an active clarification as well. This is all, this is not a national occurrence. More or less, our water is stored in the water. So, effectively, to mitigate, we want to mitigate the local concentrations, we try to get accurate water. We've just gotten honestly this year, so pop up. Delivering the water is at very hot. It's on the air, but really, it's a shallow lines. What the town does is it comes in a district, and we know for sure that the water from the line gets shallow groundwater aquifer, because in the chemistry it's called hydrology. So it means that the water in the line is capable of coming here all the way to the shallow aquifer and send to the water line on the ground, the shallow aquifer.
Do the landowners have any options to access this water if they wish to?
The one very small church owner does have a well that's been placed in there. That will probably be used to process those wells for is that as much usual the groundwater level is not a national emergency system here. Service. There are other CCs and others with water access to central East.
So if there's a landowner involved here, are they going to face any liability if that water comes up through their land and does damage to someone else's property?
If water were to come up, water would come up is so yeah, there's a legal. If we have shallow water wells, they tell us where that groundwater is moving to. So we place a series of like special basically rules of what groundwater. You know, it's a pretty sensitive area. Like we didn't have a study as to whether it's going to be like that. But since these are regional, there's a lot of especially on the northern end of the states, there's some areas where groundwater depth are about a certain temperature. So it's pretty sensitive. From what I understand, well, in that area, they have developed a lot of wells. Our hope is by mitigating this area, we can essentially have water, groundwater, consistency for irrigation water getting to the soil.
So is there any way of knowing that when you're tinkering with this artesian system down there, there's going to be affected private wells, say within a 3 to 5 mile range that aren't in the specific project?
We don't see communication with respect to groundwater mitigation at well. Generally, at one, but it has to be in a certain interval as well. So, for the most part, a lot of the wells are both idea you can point to the telemetric, monitoring well. These are telemetric, so you can actually watch in the line it's like real time. So you can actually, and we have several of them all over, so you can actually tell how far our activity is affecting, how far it can go. And we're seeing, you can see some effect within about 1,200 feet, which is about like 1.5 feet increase, the fluctuation in the water level, or 1.5 feet is about like quarter of a foot. So that was the variation that we're seeing. If you go, that's the maximum we're seeing about 2,000 feet, and it's much less resistant to like 0.1. Much smaller than. And that was the whole idea of doing the live experience, trying to, get an estimate how this situation is affect other reservoirs. Maybe see who is there. Yeah, I already heard. Here's the other issue. Can you go back like this slide? The one that shows the ground. I'm sorry about that. I want to show the whole idea. Yeah, let's go. The ground, yeah. Go back next to it, this one. Yeah, this one. So if you look at this, you see this is like the fracture rock. You see here the red line shows the ground. And what will happen actually if you have a fracture joint, it can go propagate all the way to the surface. And you can have this water going from the mine. It can flood the basement, if you have a joint, you have a closed joint like this. And this is the good thing about our grouting technique, because you see, I see it went through the fracture and turned it. So you see this issue, people having flooded basement and stuff. Some guys, some residents told us about flooded basement. And actually what happens, the water can just seep. It can even so much easier than grout, and just go up all the way, wherever in the certain point the joint stops, it will just go up and reach the surface. And that's the other issue, having this open joint and then the artesian condition can actually flood and affect some of the floating vegetation. Just talk to him. That's why in the past it was a different technique, and it will never, the grout will never.
No, you're fine. Actually, you get back on soon enough. The council postponed our second reading on the 723, so the engineers can prove to them on what they've surveyed, and it'll give you time if you want to have your site surveyed and set markers so we're both on the same page, because I think it has to do with when somewhere back there when they put the water main through there and took it up for the Senate project in the water tower up there. There was something that became city property right along that edge. That's what the engineers keep telling us. So that's what they did. But we'll have them.
As far as
Does it include itself, or does it be charged? Is this opposite?
It's right in there where, yeah, it's where it goes through there is where that water main actually lays, also that main transmission line, and where that is county property. Would be the only thing that in the 723 would be annexed. It won't annex any of your property at all. All your property will still stay in the county. Only thing we're doing with our annexation is picking up city property that's in the county and is not in the town, has never been put into the town, like the old railroad right away, in the Fox Hills well, and a few other places that we have that belongs to the town, but it's still county property, so we're moving it into the town. So one thing that we're going to do back there would be just the piece that where the water main and stuff is that's heated, but we'll get a clarification from the engineers to locate that again, because it's been surveyed once, and prove it, and we can get that information. We'll have Tim and get it to you, and they postponed the second reading until the next council meeting, which is 2 weeks from now. So hopefully we'll have some more information by then for you and for us also. If that'll work.
In addition to that, water takeaway from you is route too low. So we're essentially, in effect, restoring it to somewhat of its natural.
Yeah, and it was the Army Corps of Engineers that moved the creek. Town did move it because the only ones that can move a creek right away is the Army Corps of Engineers. But I don't. That's been long enough ago. That was back in the early. I want to say the early '80s when that got done, if I remember right. Yeah, we got part of that. But we're gonna get the engineers to go back and research that on both sides so we can have the exact information.
You will lose this natural support from the pressure. It's almost like pushing against the edge. Now the water is down, so you have to relax.
Yeah, there was something. I know there was something to do with that when they took the water main through there, but I'm not on that, and the engineering firm knows about it, so we'll have them physically search those records and with the county instead of just picking it up that way. That we can search the records with the county and get everything lined out because they had been through there and surveyed all that. None of the corners have been saved. The survey had already been, our part of the survey has already been done. We will go back and research it and get the information and we will get it to you and let so you know about it. So we also before that is not we will not annex any private property. It's just anything the grant R1 annex. It's just what belongs to the town. So, but we'll find out what it is and that way we'll. Well, you're gonna wait about a week and a half. It's pretty cold too. Yeah, not a problem. We'll talk to you.
So, you'll keep the property as currently where And we had very worst case scenario to get here. Another objective with the pilot program is to create a worst case scenario. Now we're looking at any worst case scenario. So if you look at these squares over here, these are actually simulating footing. So, and with the we are heavy, and we're using about 700 PSF to 1000 PSF, which is a typical load that you get from a structure, while a physical structure is. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to simulate the worst case scenario by injecting very close and not even the ground seal through the ground surface and see if we have movement in this case. And what we noticed, because the structure of the alluvium or the soil there is very open and loose, what will happen, the ground tends to flow through the porous medium and it just comes to the ground surface without actually pushing anything. Nothing moves, almost like I think the maximum is like 2 millimeters. You know, 1 inch is like 25 millimeters. It's actually nothing. As I said, we're trying to induce like the worst case scenario by trying to inject next to the footing and trying to pressurize as much as pressure. And the ground will always flow through the ground without inducing any movement in the footing. And we know that actually the soil structure here is really loose because of the continuous of the long duration of induced movement by the mine, just loosen the soil of the overburden. And the ground will just permeate through them without actually pushing or inducing any ease in this area. So it's just down, this is down a little bit, you have less sediment here. Here's actually one of the minor ordinance sections outside of the progress of the ground floor. I know it's kind of in this section. So yeah, as I mentioned before, we have 6 discharge wells, 16 inlets, and transfer filters. These are the additional holes that were installed as well as the project. for a new route out to affected road. So we're not just routing the money, we're routing all affected so that was just a temporary fix for us to stop the impact on more affected roads. It's highly affected by the high water there. Yeah, now this is bigger, big over there. So you can imagine if this water pressure, it can travel all the way up at about 5 feet, 5 feet. It's very high pressure. Actually, if you have pressurized water, anything can wash and any base or surface material can be washed out. In the case of mine, or joint or fracture. And in case you can imagine now the pressurized water will just wash out the base or surface material. Even putting it back, it will just wash it out. So that's summarizing basically here. Just going over the minus side of the dam. This dam is state run. This is volunteer based on our area. The biggest thing is that the dam wall area. The policy covers damage that occurs in the possible areas of the sites. Insurance premiums are $2 per thousand. For the policy on future previously. Over engineering is the area. Discussing obtaining consents throughout the route. States currently have
Yes, you said that your program is going to shut down in 2022.
So what that means is that we stop receiving funds from the federal funding that like we do all the culture. It doesn't mean that our work is stopping. And all throughout the whole state, in fact, I'm sure I did with
So you will continue to monitor these discharge wells, this artesian water, this pond, this will be closely monitored.
So, sure, so of course, during the project, the district and the highway department, we keep these wells in place. Sometimes, I mean, this is long enough to be considered a project. So we put minimum of 5 years into the wells. So we work very closely with all the mayor, council, and programs on these very simple, beyond the 8 years of ability to complete projects. We have them in 15-year years of impact and more because of the and it's not a no, they CSI has that. In the wild cards, like you can count on sometimes they're on a project 2 years, 3 years from right now. A lot of faster.
Josh, are you guys totally done on the north side of town in that, what, area in now, from the fourth through over to Sixth Street?
They are, there is additional, all that's left is that elevation down line of cars.
Okay.
And then that will be done when they're coming into the ground.
Okay.
By the end of the week, some connections.
No, I was just wondering because I've had several people ask and I'd heard that there was some other mitigation that was gonna be done on property but not out in the street, and I just wanted to clarify that. So next time I get asked about it that way, I can tell them that it would be private where you're doing work on private property out there instead of out in the street. So.
Streets where properties, once properties are done.
Okay, thank you. It's in the street. Most of the directional drain up out of the street. There'll be some more private property, but they gotta get permission.
you hail though.
I believe our next order of business is bills and claims. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we pay our bills.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Motion carries. Members of the council like to make a motion to adjourn to an executive session for real estate litigation information.
I move we adjourn for an executive session.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Motion carries. More than likely, we will not come back to make any vote on anything tonight, so you're more than welcome to stay if you'd like till or when we close, but otherwise you're more than welcome to go home. Appreciate everybody coming.
If anybody has any more questions, we'll be here for another 5 minutes or so. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna do about Sun Up and Williams Way and Miller and all that. Go to